Hey everybody, Jeremy here, and today we're going to be taking a look at two of the WWE Zombies action figures. We have here Triple H on the left and the Undertaker on the right. These are pretty newly released and they are a little bit more expensive than your normal basic action figure. The basics tend to cost around 10 bucks, but if you want to get the zombies, it's going to cost you a couple of bucks more. I got these two from Amazon. They cost about $12.99. And basically what we have going on here are zombified depictions of some famous WWE wrestlers. So in this first series, we have John Cena, The Rock, Triple H, Bray Wyatt, Dean Ambrose, Paige, and Roman Reigns. And as I said before, some figures look a little better than the others. Some look more zombified, some look more legit as zombies, and some look more like repainted basics. And yes, I know there's lots of jokes about Paige and how this actually being her real skin color because she's so pale. But we're not going to be taking a look at those today. Today we're going to be looking at Triple H and The Undertaker, which I think are two of the best looking zombie action figures. Right before we get to that, just go over the packaging real quick. It is not a perfect rectangle like we are used to. Instead, it's got all these little jagged edges. It looks almost as if the packaging is kind of ripped and torn, and they have kind of like a sarcophagus, a sort of a coffin type of bubble here so that you can look at the action figures. It's all just part of the aesthetics. But you want to see the figures. I want to see the figures. So without further ado, let's open them up, take a good look at them. So starting off here with Triple H, and as you can see, they decided to paint him this very sickly green color, which is kind of weird because how many zombies have you seen that look green like that? Usually it's just regular flesh tone. I wish that they didn't go with the green color. I wish that they would have went with really more of a pale skin, almost like what a dead person would look like, instead of the somewhat overly cartoonish zombies are green kind of look, because as we know, they are not. But what I do like about this particular figure is they actually put a little bit of work into trying to get some good detail out of it. Just taking a look at all of his skin that's ripped off across his neck and a bit of his chest here. It's not just a solid red color. They decided to put in a little bit of black so it adds a little bit more definition. I really like that. And you can also see that the black also sort of starts to bleed, no pun intended, down a bit. So it's not just in the red areas. It also kind of comes out into the green areas as well. This really cool crown accessory that he comes with, I think, is great. You can't remove it. It's just a regular silver color, but I love this because, this is very Triple H. It's this iconic Triple H, this crown that he has. And as you can see, when you take the crown off, it's nothing but his skull. A little bit of green is still on the skull because, I guess that's where the skin was. But I really do like the skull. It goes together very well with some of Triple H's ring attire. And of course, we cannot move on without pointing out the torn quad. Of course, that is a bit of an inside joke for wrestling fans, but Triple H with the torn quad as a zombie, that's kind of amusing. So yeah, this is a very good figure. Oh, and I also like the detail they put on the skull. I'm actually quite surprised. Mattel, you did a pretty good job on this skull here. It's very Terminator-esque. I like the very subtle molding that's in here as well. It's not just a flat skull. There is a little bit of molding going on there. And just look at the jaws, how the jaws are just sort of hanging down. It's actually quite gruesome. And I like it. I think they did a great job. Now, turning Triple H over on the back, as you can see, a little bit of the quad damage goes along to the back of his leg. Not really much going on the other side. And you just have his regular ring attire. They did decide to scuff up the boots a little bit with a little bit of sort of brown paint just to break things up a little bit. But his tights and his armbands that say Triple H, they are perfectly intact. So that is Triple H. Oh, articulation. This is a basic figure, by the way. So you're not going to get a whole lot of articulation. But what you do have are the typical, moving the arms up like this. And you have a pretty standard elbow bend, which I'm finding it a little bit difficult to do because of the armband that he has on. But that's usually the type of articulation that you can get. There we go. You can bend it about that much. So not a whole lot, but you can bend it. You also get a little bit of rotation right there at the wrist, and that wrist does hinge up and it does hinge down. Of course, you can move the head left, right, somewhat up, somewhat down, not really side to side. And then the legs is where it really kind of comes apart, because you can't move the legs outward. So that really limits the types of poses that you can get them in, even though you do have a little bit of a knee bend like that. If you have some type of stand or just some way to set them up, you could have them in some really freaky zombie poses, like all like all contorted like that, I think that's kind of interesting. Just put Triple H's helmet on, have them look kind of like that. You can get away with some really ridiculous poses because they are zombies, and zombies don't necessarily have the best posture. So that is Triple H. I think that he came out quite nice. And now, moving it on to the star of the show, the Deadman, the Undertaker. I love the fact that they did not go with a green look for the Undertaker. I love that they decided to go with a somewhat of a gray skin tone instead of the green, or even instead of a regular flesh tone. I like how they decided to do that. They maintain the detail on his tattoos on both of his arms, or really like that. It is a great face sculpt. I mean, just mouth wide open, tongue hanging out. That is a really great look for The Undertaker. I'm glad that they decided to go along with that, especially since they decided to also give him these cool flame accessory attachments that you can put on his hands. Now, the way that these attach to his hand, there aren't like little pegs or anything, but if you can look inside, there's like this little tiny hole right here. And really all you have to do is just sort of make the flames, like the long side of the flames, come towards his body. And you just kind of have to hook his thumb into that little hole where the flames are coming out of. And then when you do that, you can pretty much get it into a position where it's not going to wiggle and wobble around so much. It's sort of like the same thing on this hand too, although I think the left hand is a bit easier to deal with than the right hand. But yeah, it's a really great look. I'm glad they decided to go along with that accessory. The articulation is still the same with The Undertaker, but for him, I think that it's probably a good idea not to put him in any kind of really crazy zombie pose. I think this is better just to keep him like as sort of the, conjuring up fire demon kind of a pose for The Undertaker. It really works best for him in that way. So yeah, not a whole lot to say about these zombie figures because they are still basic, so you don't get a lot of articulation out of them. But I am very surprised at the amount of detail that they have given Triple H and The Undertaker in this regard. I love the fact that they gave The Undertaker these cool flame accessories. That was definitely a shocker. I love the crown accessory for Triple H. I'm trying to get him to stand up like I had him before, but now he doesn't want to cooperate with me. But yeah, these are pretty interesting. Now, I know a lot of wrestling fans out there who also collect these action figures may not be the biggest fan of the zombies because, they just want regular old, figures of professional wrestlers. And I totally understand that. But I do think this is an interesting take on it, especially if they decide to step it up. If more of these figures turned out like The Undertaker with unique accessories and things that really help go along with their character and not just look like lazy, repaints with slightly darker skin or paler skin or greenish skin with a little bit of cuts and tears here and there. If they don't go that route with it and stay more unique like The Undertaker and Triple H, I think this line could go on for a little bit. But if they decide to sort of cheapen out on things, then, well, this will be a limited nostalgia run. So that's it, guys. Zombie action figures from the WWE. They're going to be about $13 when they just come out, so check them out if you want. And thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I'm Jeremy, and I'll talk to you later.